Morning to you, Eldrin. Can you describe for us the mood in Zimbabwe this morning ahead of the swearing in of Emmerson Mnangagwa?
Well, good morning, Elvis. People going about their daily business here in the CBD of Harare. Of course, as you know, that all expectations are high ahead of tomorrow's swearing in of Emmerson. It is indeed an historic day. It would be indeed an historic day for Zimbabwe, but for Zimbabweans as well. And yesterday, when he arrived from South Africa after being in exile for the past 2 days, for the past 2 weeks, since now former President Robert Mugabe fired him after he came back to Zanu-PF's headquarters to a hero's welcome, people celebrating. He made a quite important call, calling on various neighboring countries, saying that SADC must support Zimbabwe, saying that the continent in its entirety must support Zimbabwe as well. But quite interestingly, though, is that if you look at the AU statement, the AU issued a statement welcoming the resignation of Robert Mugabe and also saying that and also praising Zimbabweans for the
Well, it seems like we've lost Eldrin there for a in fact, there's a technical problem. We're going to see if we can get him back a little bit later to give us an update on that story and see if we can continue this discussion to find out what is the latest there. Number of questions as to where is President Robert Mugabe, where's his wife, of course, the First Lady, former First Lady Grace Mugabe, and of course we're going to see if we can get back to him. Let's just take a short break and see if we can connect. In fact, let's just go back to Eldrin. Eldrin, sorry, we've lost you there for a second. Can you just pick up where you left off? What is currently happening?
Are moving around.
Okay, apologies. I actually didn't realize that the line got cut here. We're now speaking to Sandra, who is a Zimbabwean citizen who is excited about this moment, and just quickly asking her about what this moment means for her, that Zimbabwe will now have a new president, although it will be an interim president just for a couple of months ahead of the elections.
Well, this is quite an exciting moment for Zimbabweans. We've been waiting for this moment for the past 37 years. We've had the same person, and now there's someone new. We are so excited. We can't wait. We want to see what he's offering us as Zimbabweans. So we're just so excited. There's so much peace. We're working freely. And for the first time, we're talking of politics, you know, freely.
We were actually chatting about that earlier on as well, and you were saying that even in the buses, even in the taxis, how people speak freely about the state of politics and mentioning Robert Mugabe's name, and some even speaking ill of him. And this time around, things have changed, because back then there was that fear that was instilled in the people of Zimbabwe.
Of course, we're so scared to talk about the president and the political situation in our country, because there were so many people threatening. We get threats even in Combis when you talk about the political situation in Zimbabwe. But now we are so free to talk about it. We are so excited. It's exciting.
Well, indeed. What would your message be to Emmerson Mnangagwa if you could sit down right with him this very moment ahead of his swearing in? What would you say are some of the issues that he must tackle firstly?
Well, we would ask Emmerson to review the health facilities in our country, the education, and review the minister with the current Minister of Education. Yeah.
Well, you see, Elvis, that's the interesting thing. She speaks about a reshuffling of cabinet. And because it is the prerogative of the president, and when the president is sworn in tomorrow, many will be looking very closely to what he does to his cabinet. Because what we should remember is that in that cabinet of former President Robert Mugabe, there are those who are very close allies to him. Remember that even the time when Zanu-PF had a meeting and they called on Robert Mugabe to resign, and there was a cabinet meeting that was supposed to have taken place, and not all cabinet ministers arrived for that meeting at that time. However, though, the reports indicated that around 5 ministers were present for that meeting. So quite clear it is that Robert Mugabe still had allies within the cabinet. What does Emmerson Mnangagwa what would he have to do right now heading forward, considering that you have these people as well? And of course, these calls from various citizens saying that some of these ministers must be arrested and they must be prosecuted. One of those people is the second vice president, who is now the acting president, Mpoko, who is in Japan, expected to land tomorrow, or rather was expected to land here in Zimbabwe tomorrow, but we are receiving reports that he will not be heading straight to Zimbabwe and he'll be seeking asylum either in Zambia or in...
And as we speak, we've lost Eldrin again, but we're going to get an update because we want to find out about the swearing in, of course, what time that'll happen, but we'll see if we can get him back on the line a little bit later to give us an update. Meanwhile, as you know,